Okay, Mr. Canada, I can give you a report from what I'm seeing. The pitting that was behind the bevel, now we are growing the width of the bevel because we're making it wider and lower, narrower, you know, like it's curved inward on the back instead of a triangle. It is creeping toward the pitting and it is interacting at those. There's the little Filarmonica crest and then it says double temple, and below the D of the double temple, the pitting that was there as I opened the razor, and I believe it was in his pictures that he emailed me. Yes, that is interacting with it. Also, the 2-meter stone has overtaken all of the scratches everywhere and eaten up the little tiny chips that were on the razor, replacing them with coarse scratches. Except at this tip, they're still there because the razor is narrower there. So I'm going to have to play the dangerous game of trying to go on that part until I can overcome that. And then at the heel, I also saw one. To the right of the E in the temple, there's the little pointy part of the crest thing. Before you get to between the E of the temple and the little end of the inlay, there's a little chip there where the razor is getting narrower. So it's at the two ends of the razor, and we're also having bevel plane creep into pitting. And it's probably not just at that bad pitting where it was double temple. Below the O of Filarmonica, below the O, there's some pitting too. It's more like strafing lines as opposed to things that a hailstorm would make, so to speak. But it is there, and yeah, it looks like it's interacting just a little bit. But the one next to the D of double temple, that's going to be a problem, and I believe the razor is mildly compromised. You know, think of it as an extremely concave, probably still wonderful shaving razor, but not something that you can put a lot of mileage on because you are going to be cutting into that pitting quickly, and the pitting next to the double temple is certainly a 1/16 of an inch or more of face of the razor. Why would you grind off all that razor just to get behind there? And how do you even know when you get behind there if it's healthy razor behind there? Use it as it is because we can get the apex, although it will be fragile where that double temple writing is. We can at least get the apex not to have any problems, and I'm sure it will shave wonderfully. I would just suggest that you use a pasted strop to upkeep this razor and not touch it to a stone again, because it's not going to be able to take much stone mileage without that pitting at the double temple that's in the bevel already, causing serious problems. You certainly don't want that pitting to make its way to the shaving edge. Unfortunately, we're making a very mildly smiling razor more smiling by trying to do some spot correction here and get behind the two little bumps that I see. To the toe end, past the little line thing of the insignia outside of the gold Filarmonica part. So if you're buying these old razors, you really got to watch for any pitting that you know, probably the seller didn't know, but it's pitting that's going to affect the function of this razor slightly. You have to be compensated financially for that. That's just the way it is. If you've seen my videos going through, you know, a few dozen razors, mostly they're from the 1980s or later. It's hard to find a very wide extra hollow razor with plenty of meat left on the bone and no carbon steel issues. What a wonderfully thin and stabilizer-free razor this is. This is a true work of grinding art. There can be no doubt of that. Alright, I'm going to clean off the stone again and go take a look and see what we've accomplished. It just needs a little bit more honing at the heel, and those chips at the toe aren't going anywhere. So I am going to try to overcome them with the next step, and if not that, then I may resort to using the final flat step to bludgeon them off if we have to. Also, the razor does look to have some pitting at the part I'm touching right now, and it is making the steel thin and fragile. So time to switch to a longer stone. 60 by 250 millimeter cuticule. This razor's sticking to this thing like glue. Man, that's good. That's some lovely feedback we got going there. This one holds its shape quite well. I don't really have to upkeep it very much at all. I'm sure you can already notice that the stone has a far less dramatic curve going across your screen than the previous stone. And what that's going to do is make it so that the imaginary wheel you're using is much longer, and therefore you are interacting with the razor's cutting edge much closer to its apex. So these scratches will start somewhere in the middle of the bevel and start moving toward the apex, and then when they overcome the apex, they would start creeping back toward the spine at that point. But you don't want to have them overtake the scratches that are on the spine side of it, because then you are reshaping the razor to be thicker tipped. Better to leave those scratches in place along with their narrower shape. Our new scratches from this stone have started to minimize the thickness of the chips that are at the tip of the razor. The heel of this razor is metallurgically compromised. I think we should just try to keep good geometry, and I would recommend thinking of the razor as a shorter cutting length than it is, because you are not going to solve that part of the heel where it starts to get thinner physically on the grind, and the oxidation and pitting and stuff that was there has taken over. Who told this guy this was new old stock? That's crazy. This is my La Grosse Blanche cuticule. It is an ellipse that is 4 feet longer diameter than the one you just saw. And the one you just saw is shaped like a cylinder. This is an ellipse, and the secondary diameter going across is 1/3 as wide as that cylinder. So this is the one where you can start to bend the edge, and I'm hoping that the edge where it's messed up is so thin that just a little bit of this gets those little bumps so small that if I were to go touch the razor with the Norton Ascent, which is flat, they'll just melt right off. So normally I would start to bend the edge by going like this and going off of the ellipse. But if we do that, we are going to put random scratches on this beautiful thing. Not that I don't want him to shave with it, I certainly do, but I would like it to be a trophy case queen that you rarely shave with, and you think of the razor as a remarkable example of the pinnacle of hollow grinding. I've had a couple more views in the scope, and yeah, this razor has quite sincere oxidation compromises at many points along its edge. And we have made the bevel much thinner here, and I think the best course of action is to finish it with the Norton Ascent for much longer than I would normally say to do so that you can get a thick enough tip on this razor that it can survive its very serious oxidation pittings. At the tip of this razor, the pitting behind the edge is significant, and there is a little chip on the tip of the edge. So you're worried about trying to hone to fix the chip because you are going to encounter the thinness problems from the pitting very, very quickly. These Norton Ascents are really fast cutters, and I am going to stay on here long enough to bludgeon the two little bumps that are on the last 5 millimeters of the razor and get the whole thing with a flat front to the bevel. I only want to do it long enough to get the tip of the razor not having any spot that could scratch a strop or a person. I'm going to clean up and we'll go over to the strop. Okay, here goes nothing. Let's see how it turns out. Well, that is some impressive pinging performance. I hope it holds up to use. There's a shame about the pitting, man. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye-bye.